On November 26, 2025, Hong Kong was rocked by its deadliest fire in nearly 30 years. The city, known for its dazzling skyline and bustling streets, was suddenly plunged into chaos and fear as news of the disaster spread rapidly across social media and television screens. Just before 3 p.m., flames erupted at Wong Fuk Court in Tai Po, a densely populated residential area. Within minutes, the fire escalated into a Level 5 emergency, the city's most severe classification. Sirens wailed as emergency vehicles raced through crowded streets, and thick plumes of smoke billowed into the sky, visible for miles around. The inferno tore through the public housing estate with terrifying speed, trapping families and residents inside. At least 44 people lost their lives, and 279 remain missing, their fates uncertain. The tragedy has plunged the city into shock and grief, with families desperately searching for loved ones and communities coming together in mourning. Images of high-rises engulfed in black smoke and orange flames stunned the world, shattering Hong Kong's sense of safety. The scale and intensity of the fire left many questioning how such a disaster could happen in a modern metropolis renowned for its infrastructure. This was more than a fire. It was a wake-up call, exposing vulnerabilities in one of the world's densest cities. Residents, already living in cramped conditions, now faced the harsh reality of outdated safety measures and overcrowded buildings, raising fears about the risks lurking in their own homes. The disaster has sparked urgent questions about building safety, regulations, and accountability. Experts and officials are now under intense scrutiny as the public demands to know whether this tragedy could have been prevented and what steps will be taken to ensure it never happens again. As rescue workers comb the ruins for survivors and evidence, the city mourns and demands answers. Vigils and memorials have sprung up across Hong Kong as people unite in grief and solidarity, determined to honor the victims and support those affected. Leaders, including Chief Executive John Lee and President Xi Jinping, have called for an all-out effort to save lives and uncover the truth. The government has promised a thorough investigation, pledging to hold those responsible accountable and to review safety standards citywide. The Wong Fuk Court fire is a defining moment, one that will shape Hong Kong's future for generations. As the city begins to heal, the lessons learned from this tragedy will echo for years to come, driving change and inspiring a renewed commitment to safety and community. Wong Fuk Court was more than just a collection of buildings. It was a vibrant home to over 4,000 people, a place where generations lived side by side and neighbors became like family. Many of its residents were elderly, having spent decades in the estate, watching their children grow up and their community evolve. The daily rhythms of life here were shaped by shared routines, morning exercises in the courtyard, friendly chats at the local shops, and the comforting presence of familiar faces. Located in the heart of Tai Po, Wong Fuk Court's 8 high-rise towers stood as a microcosm of Hong Kong life, dense, bustling, and full of stories. Each tower was a vertical village, with its own unique character and sense of belonging. About 36% of residents were over 65, making evacuation during the fire especially perilous. Many seniors had lived here for years, forming deep bonds with their neighbors, but age and frailty made them particularly vulnerable in an emergency. For these elderly residents, mobility was a daily challenge even before disaster struck. When the fire broke out, many found themselves trapped by smoke and flames, unable to escape quickly or safely. The fear and confusion in those moments were overwhelming. At the time, the estate was undergoing major renovations. Bamboo scaffolding and green netting, intended to improve safety and modernize the buildings, instead became deadly accelerants as the fire spread rapidly. What was meant to protect the community ended up putting lives at even greater risk. Over 700 residents managed to escape the flames, but now find themselves sheltering in temporary facilities, community halls, gymnasiums, and makeshift dormitories. Their lives have been upended, routines shattered, and the sense of home replaced by uncertainty. The community, once close-knit and lively, is now scattered and traumatized. Playgrounds and courtyards that once echoed with laughter now stand empty, as residents struggle to process their loss and support one another through grief. For survivors, the future is uncertain. For many, everything familiar is gone. The loss is not just of possessions, but of memories, routines, and the comfort of community. The tragedy has torn apart the fabric of Wong Fuk Court, leaving only memories and unanswered questions. Residents are left to wonder how such a disaster could happen, and what the future holds for their once thriving home. The disaster has forced Hong Kong to confront the risks of high-rise living and the urgent need for better protection of its most vulnerable citizens. As the city reflects on what was lost, it must also consider how to rebuild stronger, safer, and more compassionate communities for all. The fire's rapid spread was fueled by deadly choices in construction materials. Investigators found flammable polystyrene boards used in renovations. Some even blocked apartment windows, trapping residents. Bamboo scaffolding and green mesh, common in Hong Kong, acted as a vertical wick, carrying flames from floor to floor. Burning debris rained down, igniting new fires and overwhelming firefighters. Survivors reported no fire alarms. Many had no warning until smoke filled their homes. This catastrophic failure in safety systems turned a manageable fire into an uncontrollable disaster. The tragedy has exposed dangerous gaps in building standards and enforcement. Hong Kong now faces tough questions about how such risks were allowed to exist in the first place. As flames engulfed Wong Fuk Court, hundreds of firefighters rushed in, risking everything. They battled extreme heat, choking smoke and falling debris, racing to save trapped residents. The fire's speed forced crews to fight on multiple fronts, stretching resources thin. Drones provided aerial views, but the real battle was inside. Firefighters went door to door, searching for survivors in smoke-filled corridors. One firefighter, Ho Wai Ho, lost his life in the rescue effort, a stark reminder of the risks first responders face. Their courage saved hundreds, even as exhaustion and danger mounted. The rescue mission soon became a recovery operation, but the bravery of Hong Kong's firefighters remains a source of pride. Their actions stand as a testament to selflessness in the face of overwhelming disaster. The true impact of the fire is revealed in the stories of those who survived. Each account is a window into the chaos, fear, and resilience that defined that night. Survivors, still shaken, recall the moments when their lives changed forever, their voices trembling as they recount what they endured. Residents describe chaos, smoke-filled hallways, blocked exits, and the roar of flames. Some remember the overwhelming confusion, the panic as they searched for loved ones, and the desperate rush to escape as thick smoke filled every corner. Many elderly were trapped, some surviving by sealing themselves in bathrooms for hours, waiting for rescue. For them, every minute felt like an eternity, as they clung to hope and listened for the sound of help approaching through the smoke and heat. Others hesitated to flee, confused and frightened, only realizing the danger when it was almost too late. The uncertainty and fear paralyzed many, forcing them to make split-second decisions that would determine their fate. Survivors recall escaping down dark, debris-strewn stairwells, guided only by the light of a phone. Each step was a struggle, as they navigated through choking smoke, falling debris, and the sounds of chaos all around them. The lack of fire alarms meant many lost precious time, alerted only by smoke or shouts. Some awoke to the acrid smell of burning, others to the frantic cries of neighbors pounding on doors, urging everyone to get out. Behind every statistic is a family, a life forever changed. The grief and shock linger, as loved ones try to make sense of the loss and piece together what remains of their lives. Survivors now face not just the loss of home, but deep psychological scars. The trauma of that night haunts their dreams, and the road to healing will be long and uncertain. Their voices demand answers and justice for the human cost of this disaster. As the community gathers to mourn and demand accountability, their stories remind us that behind every tragedy are real people, whose courage and pain must never be forgotten. In the aftermath, grief has turned to anger and a demand for justice. Authorities arrested 3 men, 2 directors and a consultant from the renovation company, on suspicion of manslaughter. The investigation centers on whether flammable materials and safety shortcuts led to the tragedy. Officials are probing if fire retardant measures were ignored, and if alarms or sprinklers were disabled during construction. The public demands transparency and accountability, not just for Wong Fuk Court, but for all of Hong Kong's public housing. These arrests are only the beginning of a long legal process. For the community, justice means ensuring such negligence can never happen again. The Wong Fuk Court fire has drawn global attention, echoing the Grenfell Tower tragedy in London. Both disasters involved flammable materials in high-rise renovations and exposed failures in safety oversight. The use of polystyrene and bamboo scaffolding is now under international scrutiny. Experts question why, years after Grenfell, such risks persist in major cities. The tragedy highlights the gap between knowing the dangers and enforcing real change. Hong Kong's construction practices, especially bamboo scaffolding, are being re-examined. The world is watching to see if Hong Kong will lead in reform or repeat the mistakes of the past. The fire is a global warning. Building safety must never be compromised. The government faces mounting pressure as the public demands answers and reform. Chief Executive John Lee has promised a full investigation and support for victims, but skepticism remains. Outrage centers on how a government-overseen renovation could end in disaster. Calls grow for an independent inquiry and a complete review of building codes and contractor oversight. Emergency shelters and support have been set up, but trust in public housing safety is shaken. President Xi Jinping's involvement underscores the gravity of the crisis. The government must now prove it can rebuild trust and prevent future tragedies. The public wants more than words. They want action and real change. As the city mourns, the lessons of Wang Fu Court must drive lasting change. Combustible materials in high-rises are a proven danger. Regulations and enforcement must be overhauled. The failure of fire alarms reveals a deeper complacency in safety culture. Regular inspections, clear evacuation plans, and public education are essential. Rebuilding means more than new buildings. It means restoring trust and prioritizing safety. The resilience of Hong Kong's people and the bravery of first responders offer hope. The government and industry must act transparently to honor those lost. The tragedy is a stark reminder. Safety standards are written in lives, not just laws. The memory of the 44 lost and the hundreds affected demands a future where such a disaster is unthinkable.